the world was caught off guard. It started subtly, with reports of minor satellite malfunctions. Within hours, the situation escalated as all space-based communications ceased. The International Space Stations went silent, rovers on Mars and the Moon stopped responding, and the James Webb Telescope transmitted its final image before going dark. Panic spread as news outlets around the globe scrambled to understand what was happening. In every major city, screens lit up with breaking news, analysts speculated, and scientists worked around the clock to diagnose the problem. Was it a cyber attack? A cosmic event? Or something far more sinister? Theories ranged from solar flares to alien interference, but no one had concrete answers. In London, James Carter, an aerospace engineer, was among those glued to their screens. He had worked on some of the very satellites that had gone dark, and the mystery gnawed at him. As he watched the news unfold, he couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was happening, something that could change humanity forever. James glanced at his cluttered desk, papers and technical manuals strewn everywhere. His phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, all equally perplexed. He picked up the phone and dialed his friend, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a leading scientist at the European Space Agency, ESA. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" James asked, his voice tinged with urgency. "I am," Sarah replied, her tone equally strained. "We've lost contact with all our assets. It's like the entire sky just went dark." By the evening, the situation had become dire. Governments around the world declared states of emergency, urging citizens to remain calm while they worked to restore communications. But fear was spreading faster than reassurance. Streets were filled with anxious people, their eyes darting towards the sky, as if expecting answers to descend from above. James continued to monitor the situation, his mind racing with possibilities. What could cause such a widespread failure? He considered everything from a massive solar flare to an unprecedented cyber attack. Yet, none of the usual suspects seemed to fit the scale and speed of the blackout. His thoughts were interrupted by a news alert. Breaking news: worldwide communications blackout continues. Governments urge calm. The screen showed images of empty control rooms at NASA and the ESA, their normally bustling operations now eerily silent. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom addressed the nation, his face a mask of concern. "We are facing an unprecedented situation. Our experts are working tirelessly to identify the cause and restore communications. We ask for your patience and calm during this challenging time." James felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his chest. He knew that without satellite guidance, everything from GPS to global finance was at risk. The world was more interconnected than ever, and the loss of these systems could have catastrophic consequences. Late into the night, James couldn't tear himself away from the screen. Reports were coming in from all over the world, flights grounded, ships unable to navigate, and millions of people trying to contact loved ones with no success. The sense of isolation was overwhelming. In a quiet moment, James's thoughts turned to his parents, living in a rural part of the country. He hoped they were safe and unaware of the growing chaos. He picked up his phone to call them but was met with a deadline. Frustrated, he tossed the phone aside. The hours dragged on, and exhaustion began to set in. James knew he needed rest, but his mind wouldn't let him. Just as he was about to doze off, a new alert jolted him awake. "Alien ship spotted over London." His heart pounded as he read the headline again. Alien ship? It had to be a mistake, a hoax. But the accompanying video showed a massive, otherworldly vessel hovering silently above the city, casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the streets below. James watched in stunned silence. The ship was unlike anything he'd ever seen, sleek, metallic, and enormous. It floated effortlessly, defying gravity and logic. His phone buzzed with calls and messages, but he ignored them, his eyes fixed on the screen. As he continued to watch, the ship's surface began to shimmer with strange lights, shifting colors and patterns in a mesmerizing display. It was both beautiful and terrifying. The reality of the situation hit James like a tidal wave. This was no hoax. Humanity was no longer alone. The news anchor's voice trembled as she reported, "Authorities are urging the public to remain calm and stay indoors. The origin and intentions of the ship are currently unknown." James felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment he'd always dreamed of as a child, staring up at the stars. But now that it was here, it was far more daunting than he'd ever imagined. He grabbed his phone and called Sarah again. "Sarah, you need to see this. There's an alien ship over London." "I know," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm on my way to the ESA headquarters. We need to figure out what's going on." James nodded, though she couldn't see him. "I'll meet you there." He hung up, grabbed his coat, and rushed out the door. The streets were eerily quiet, the usual hustle and bustle replaced by an uneasy stillness. As he made his way to the ESA, his mind raced with questions. Why had the aliens come? What did they want? And most importantly, what would happen next? The massive alien spaceship cast a shadow over London that seemed to swallow the city whole. Its sheer size and otherworldly design were both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The ship hovered silently, its surface shimmering with strange, shifting lights that danced in eerie patterns. The world watched in stunned silence, glued to their screens, as the news of the alien ship spread like wildfire. Minutes after the ship appeared, the satellites and communications systems suddenly came back online. This unexpected restoration only heightened the sense of confusion and fear. The hum of the ship resonated through the city streets, creating a palpable sense of dread. People watched in horror as military forces converged on the city, struggling to navigate despite the restored satellite support. Tanks rolled through the streets, and soldiers set up barricades, their movements cautious and deliberate. James Carter and Dr. Sarah Mitchell met at the entrance of the ESA headquarters, their faces etched with worry and determination. They hurried inside, joining the frenzied activity of scientists and engineers trying to make sense of the situation. "Sarah, do we have any readings from the ship?" James asked as they made their way to the control room. "Not yet. Our instruments are still recalibrating after the blackout," Sarah replied, her eyes scanning the data screens. "But look at this, whatever the ship is emitting, it's not like anything we've seen before." James peered at the monitors, showing fluctuating energy readings and strange electromagnetic signatures. "It's almost as if the ship itself is a living entity," he muttered, more to himself than to Sarah. The control room buzzed with activity as scientists analyzed the data and communicated with other space agencies worldwide. The room's giant screen displayed a live feed of the alien ship, its ominous presence looming over London. In a corner of the room, a small team of linguists and cryptographers worked tirelessly, hoping to decipher any potential communication from the ship. The atmosphere was tense, every second ticking by with the weight of uncertainty. Outside, the city was in chaos. Despite government pleas for calm, many citizens fled the city, seeking refuge in rural areas. Others stayed, captivated by the sight of the alien craft. Protests and rallies erupted, with some demanding the aliens be turned away, fearing an invasion, while others called for peaceful cooperation. In a makeshift command center near the city's edge, military leaders strategized their next moves. Colonel Marcus Thompson, a seasoned officer with a reputation for being both pragmatic and unyielding, stood over a large map of London, his expression grim. "We can't afford to wait much longer," he said, addressing his team. "We need to be ready for any eventuality. Our primary objective is to protect the civilians and maintain order." "But sir," one of his officers interjected, "we don't even know if they're hostile. What if they're here in peace?" Colonel Thompson's eyes narrowed. "Until we have confirmation, we must assume every possibility. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best." Back at the ESA, James and Sarah were deep in discussion with their colleagues. "We need to establish communication with them," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "If we can show them that we come in peace, maybe they'll do the same." James nodded in agreement. "Let's start with basic mathematical patterns. It's a universal language. If they're advanced enough to travel here, they should understand it." As they prepared their message, the alien ship remained silent, its presence a constant, unnerving reminder of the unknown. The hum it emitted seemed to grow louder, reverberating through the city and sending shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Suddenly, the screens across London flickered and went blank. People in their homes, on the streets, and in command centers watched in breathless anticipation. Slowly, an unfamiliar script began to fill the screens, the characters glowing softly. Moments later, a synthetic voice echoed through the city, broadcasting in English. "People of Earth, we come in peace. We are the last survivors of our planet, which was decimated by a catastrophic event. We seek refuge and assistance. Our journey has taken us to many worlds, but none have been willing to help. We hope that humanity will be different. We bring knowledge and technology, and we ask for sanctuary in return." The message played on a loop, the alien script glowing softly on the screens. The world watched, holding its breath, as humanity faced an unprecedented decision. Would they extend a hand to the desperate aliens, or would fear drive them to reject the visitors? James and Sarah exchanged a glance, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. "This changes everything," James said quietly. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "Now we have to decide what kind of future we want." As the message continued to play, the hum of the alien ship seemed to synchronize with the heartbeat of the city, each pulse a reminder of the momentous choice that lay ahead. The second day dawned with still no resolution. Theories continued to swirl, and fear began to take hold. Rumors of an impending alien invasion spread like wildfire. Social media was ablaze with speculation, some users claiming to have seen strange lights in the sky, others posting cryptic messages about government cover-ups. In the corridors of power, world leaders considered the possibility of extraterrestrial interference more seriously. They activated contingency plans, mobilizing troops, and preparing for the worst-case scenario. Despite the restored satellite guidance, coordination remained a logistical nightmare due to lingering distrust of the systems. James Carter's phone buzzed insistently. It was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, her voice urgent. "James, we need to get to the ESA headquarters immediately. We have to figure out what they want and how to respond." James grabbed his coat and headed out. The streets were eerily empty as people stayed indoors, watching events unfold on their screens. As he made his way to the ESA, he couldn't help but notice the palpable tension in the air, a mix of fear and curiosity. At the ESA headquarters, James and Sarah joined a team of scientists and engineers working around the clock. The alien ship's message played repeatedly on every screen, its synthetic voice becoming a haunting background to their work. "We need to decode their language," Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the screens. "If we can understand them better, we might find a way to communicate more effectively." James nodded, his mind racing. "Let's start with their script. It's our best chance. If we can identify patterns, we might be able to make some sense of it." They worked tirelessly, analyzing the alien script and cross-referencing it with known languages and mathematical patterns. The task was daunting, but their determination never wavered. On the third day, the tension reached a breaking point. The alien ship showed signs of activity. Screens across London flickered and went blank, then slowly filled with an unfamiliar script. Moments later, the message was translated and broadcasted in English, with a synthetic voice reading it aloud. "People of Earth, we come in peace. We are the last survivors of our planet, which was decimated by a catastrophic event. We seek refuge and assistance. Our journey has taken us to many worlds, but none have been willing to help. We hope that humanity will be different. We bring knowledge and technology, and we ask for sanctuary in return." The message played on a loop, the alien script glowing softly on the screens. The world watched, holding its breath, as humanity faced an unprecedented decision. Would they extend a hand to the desperate aliens, or would fear drive them to reject the visitors? The impact of the message was immediate and profound. Governments around the world called emergency meetings. The United Nations announced an emergency summit to discuss the situation. Leaders from every country would converge in New York to debate the aliens' plea for asylum. James and Sarah were invited to the summit as expert advisors. Their insights into space technology and the current blackout made them valuable assets. As they boarded the flight to New York, they couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. The future of humanity, and the fate of an entire alien species, hung in the balance. The summit began in a tense, solemn atmosphere. Representatives from around the world gathered in the UN General Assembly Hall, their faces a mix of fear, curiosity, and determination. The alien ship's message played on a large screen, its plea for sanctuary echoing in the vast chamber. the Secretary-General of the United Nations addressed the Assembly. We face an unprecedented challenge. The arrival of these aliens has thrown our world into turmoil, but it also presents an opportunity. We must decide whether to extend our hand in friendship or to close our doors in fear. This decision will define our generation and the future of humanity. James and Sarah sat among the world's leaders, feeling the weight of their responsibility. During a break in the proceedings, James spoke to the Assembly. These beings are refugees, much like many humans have been throughout history. If we turn them away, what does that say about us? We need to approach this with caution but also with an open heart. While the diplomats debated, the military remained on high alert. Generals and defense ministers from various nations held separate meetings to discuss potential threats and strategies. Despite the restored satellite guidance, many in the military remained convinced that the aliens had hostile intentions. Colonel Marcus Thompson of the British Army voiced his concerns. We cannot afford to be naive. We must prepare for the possibility that this is a ruse. The aliens' technology is far beyond ours, and we must be ready to defend ourselves. Despite orders to stand down and wait for diplomatic resolutions, some military factions moved without permission to prepare a massive attack against the aliens. This unauthorized mobilization further strained relations between military and diplomatic efforts. The public reaction was a mix of fear, curiosity, and compassion. Protests and rallies erupted in major cities worldwide. Some demanded that the aliens be turned away, fearing an invasion, while others called for humanity to extend a helping hand. In London, Sarah joined a group of scientists and activists advocating for peaceful cooperation. We have a chance to show the best of humanity, she said at a rally. Let's not waste it. As the third day drew to a close, the tension reached a fever pitch. The world waited anxiously for the outcome of the UN summit, knowing that the decision made in those hallowed halls would shape the future of both humanity and the desperate beings who had sought their help. As the summit continued, the alien ship began transmitting detailed data during their broadcast. James and Sarah, along with a team of scientists, analyzed the data and discovered that it contained extensive information about the aliens' history, anatomy, and the composition of their home planet. This is incredible, James said, scrolling through the data. They're sharing everything about themselves. Sarah nodded, her eyes wide with amazement. Look at this. Their atmosphere composition is nearly identical to Earth's. That's why they chose our planet. They need an environment like ours to survive. By cross-referencing the data with Earth's atmospheric composition, they confirmed the similarities. The aliens' planet had been ravaged by a cataclysmic event, leaving them in desperate need of a new home with a compatible environment. They presented their findings to the UN summit, emphasizing the importance of helping the aliens. Earth is one of the few planets in the galaxy with an atmosphere that can sustain these beings, Sarah explained to the Assembly. Turning them away would be condemning them to extinction. As the summit continued, the alien ship once again took control of the broadcasts. This time, they showed images of their devastated home planet, their people struggling to survive, and the horrors they had escaped. The emotional impact was profound. In a dramatic moment, the alien leader addressed the summit directly via video link. The leader's face was humanoid, yet distinctly alien, with large, expressive eyes that seemed to convey a deep sorrow. We do not seek to conquer or harm. We seek to live, to rebuild, to coexist. Please, help us. The room fell silent. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. Finally, the Secretary-General of the United Nations stood up. Humanity has faced many challenges, but this is perhaps the greatest test of our compassion and unity. I propose that we extend our hand in friendship and help these refugees. The Assembly erupted into applause, though the undercurrent of tension remained. Not everyone was convinced, but the decision had been made. Humanity would offer sanctuary to the aliens. With the decision reached, the world began to mobilize resources to help the aliens. James and Sarah were invited aboard the alien ship to facilitate the integration of alien and human technology. The invitation came through a direct message from the alien ship, transmitted securely to the ESA headquarters. The message contained detailed instructions and a personal appeal from the alien leader for James and Sarah's expertise. As they boarded the ship, they were greeted by the alien leader and a small group of scientists. The ship's interior was a marvel of advanced technology, with sleek, organic designs and a calming atmosphere. It was clear that the aliens had once been a highly advanced civilization. "Thank you for coming," the alien leader said, their voice soft but resonant. "We have much to learn from each other." James and Sarah spent hours touring the ship, discussing potential collaborations, and learning about the alien technology. They were particularly fascinated by the ship's energy systems, which seemed to harness power in ways humanity had only begun to imagine. Despite the diplomatic efforts, the military remained unconvinced. Colonel Thompson and his counterparts prepared for a potential strike, coordinating with other nations' forces. The tension between the military and the diplomatic corps reached a boiling point. Their message could be a ploy, Colonel Thompson warned. "We must be prepared to defend our planet at all costs." In secret, a faction within the military planned an unauthorized attack, convinced that the alien presence posed an imminent threat. They coordinated a strike with precision, hoping to catch the aliens off guard. One evening, as James explored the ship's vast corridors, he stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Inside, he discovered a series of cryptic messages and holographic images that suggested the aliens' cataclysmic event was not a natural disaster but an attack by a malevolent force still at large in the galaxy. James's heart raced. He knew this information could change everything. He hurried back to Sarah and the alien leader, sharing his discovery. The realization dawned on them all: the threat that destroyed the alien home planet could still be out there, posing a danger to both humanity and their new allies. "We need to inform the UN and our governments," Sarah said urgently. "This changes everything." Just as James and Sarah began discussing their findings with the alien leader, the alarms on the ship blared. The military had launched an unauthorized attack, unleashing a barrage of missiles at the alien ship. The ship shuddered under the impact. Explosions rocked the vessel, and it began to descend towards Earth. Chaos erupted as the aliens scrambled to manage the damage and protect their people. James and Sarah were evacuated from the ship just before it crashed into the outskirts of London. The sight was devastating. The once majestic ship was now a smoldering wreck, with fires burning and debris scattered everywhere. Many aliens perished in the crash, but some survived. The survivors were quickly taken into medical care by human emergency services. The general responsible for the unauthorized attack, Colonel Thompson, was arrested and charged with treason. In the following weeks, the surviving aliens, along with James, Sarah, and other scientists, worked together to salvage what they could from the wreckage. They began sharing knowledge and technology, forging a new path of cooperation despite the tragic start. The story ends with a somber reflection on the costs of fear and mistrust, but also with a glimmer of hope as humans and aliens begin to work together, learning from each other and building a shared future. The ultimate challenge of facing the unknown threat remains, but now with a newfound alliance, humanity and their new allies are better prepared to confront it. In the weeks following the crash, humanity and the alien survivors began to forge an unprecedented alliance. The world watched in awe and apprehension as collaborative efforts unfolded. Governments and organizations worldwide pooled their resources, working hand in hand with the aliens to integrate their advanced technology and knowledge into human society. James and Sarah found themselves at the forefront of this new partnership. The ESA headquarters became the central hub for technological exchanges, with scientists from both species working side by side. One of the first major projects was the construction of a new communication network that combined human and alien technology. This hybrid system promised to be more resilient and efficient than anything humanity had previously known. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when two worlds came together. As the collaborative efforts progressed, significant breakthroughs were made. Alien medical technology began to revolutionize human healthcare, offering cures for previously incurable diseases. Energy solutions derived from alien tech promised a cleaner, more sustainable future for Earth. Yet, challenges remained. There were those who still harbored distrust and fear towards the aliens. Protests erupted in various parts of the world, with some groups vehemently opposing the alliance. The shadow of the unauthorized military attack lingered, a reminder of the fragile nature of this new relationship. James and Sarah worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between skeptics and supporters. They held public forums, explaining the benefits of the alliance and addressing concerns. Slowly but surely, they began to win over hearts and minds. Just as it seemed that humanity and the aliens were beginning to find their footing, a new threat emerged. Reports started coming in of strange anomalies in space, disturbances that bore an eerie resemblance to the events that had led to the destruction of the alien home planet. James and Sarah were called to an emergency meeting at the United Nations. The alien leader, accompanied by Clara, presented their findings. "We have detected the presence of the same malevolent force that destroyed our world," the alien leader explained. "It is moving through the galaxy, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. We must prepare to face it, together." The room fell silent as the weight of the revelation sank in. The threat was no longer theoretical, it was real and imminent. The realization that a greater threat loomed galvanized the alliance. Governments around the world began to mobilize their forces, working closely with the aliens to develop defensive strategies. Military leaders who had once been skeptical now found themselves cooperating with their former adversaries. James and Sarah played crucial roles in these preparations. They helped design new defense systems, blending human ingenuity with alien technology. It was a race against time, as the ominous force drew ever closer. Colonel Thompson, now working under strict oversight after his previous actions, contributed his tactical expertise. Despite the lingering mistrust, he was determined to atone for his past mistakes. As the threat approached, the world braced itself for the final stand. An enormous fleet of hybrid ships, manned by both humans and aliens, was assembled. The sky above Earth became a formidable shield, ready to defend the planet from the oncoming menace. James and Sarah stood together on the command deck of the flagship, gazing out at the fleet. The tension was palpable, but so was the sense of unity. "This is it," James said quietly. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment." Sarah nodded, her expression resolute. "We've come so far. We can't back down now." The alien leader joined them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "Together, we will face this threat. Together, we will prevail." As the enemy drew near, a hush fell over the command center. The battle for the future of both species was about to begin. The battle was fierce and unrelenting. The combined forces of humanity and their alien allies fought with everything they had. The sky was alight with explosions and energy blasts, the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. After hours of intense combat, the enemy was finally repelled. The cost had been high, but the alliance had prevailed. As the smoke cleared, a new dawn broke over a world forever changed by the ordeal. In the aftermath, the bond between humans and aliens grew stronger. The shared struggle had forged an unbreakable connection, a testament to what could be achieved through unity and cooperation. James and Sarah, now celebrated as heroes, continued their work to build a brighter future. They knew that challenges would still come, but they also knew that together, they could overcome anything. As they stood together, watching the sun rise over a world reborn, they felt a profound sense of hope. The alliance had faced its first great test and emerged victorious. Now, with newfound determination, they looked to the stars, ready to embrace whatever came next. If you enjoyed the Arrival Humanity's Unseen Challenge, you won't want to miss our next thrilling sci-fi adventure. Click here to watch another captivating story from the Sci-Fi Story Vault. Dive into the unknown, explore new worlds, and experience the excitement of what's to come. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss an update from the Sci-Fi Story Vault.